So, you're thinking of moving to Canada, eh? Alright, settle down. I know, it sounds like a great idea, especially with everything going on right now. I get it. Things are a little crazy down south. The political climate is intense and it feels like every day brings a new wave of stress and uncertainty. The election didn't go your way. Maybe you feel disillusioned or even betrayed by the results. Maybe you even threaten to move to Canada if your least favorite candidate won. And now, here we are. He won. Well, guess what? He won. And now you're seriously considering making good on that threat. Your Facebook feed is full of moving trucks and maple leaf emojis. Everyone seems to be talking about it, but before you sell all your belongings and buy a parka, let's have a little chat. Moving to another country is a huge step. See, moving to another country isn't as simple as ordering takeout. It's a complex process that involves a lot of planning and paperwork. It's a big decision, and like a bad haircut, you might regret it later. You don't want to make a hasty choice that you'll end up regretting. Trust me on this one. I've seen it happen before. I'm not saying Canada is bad. It's a lovely country. Beautiful scenery, friendly people, and a generally welcoming atmosphere. Free healthcare. More on that later. But it's not America. The culture, the lifestyle, and even the weather can be quite different. And you? Well, you're American. You're used to certain things that you might not even realize you take for granted. You're used to certain things. Things like the convenience of 24-hour stores, the variety of food options, and the unique cultural experiences that America offers. Things like freedom of speech without saying sorry all the time. In Canada, people are polite to a fault, and that might take some getting used to. So, before you pack your bags and head north, let's take a closer look at the Great White North, shall we? There are many factors to consider, from the cost of living to the job market, and even the social dynamics. For instance, have you thought about the weather? Canadian winters are no joke. We're talking about months of snow, ice, and freezing temperatures. Are you ready for that kind of cold? And what about the job market? Depending on your profession, finding a job in Canada might be more challenging than you think. It's important to research and understand the job opportunities available to you. The cost of living is another crucial factor. While some things might be cheaper, others could be more expensive. Housing, for example, can be quite pricey in major cities like Toronto and Vancouver. Then there's the cultural aspect. Canada has its own unique culture and traditions. Embracing and adapting to these can be both exciting and challenging. And let's not forget healthcare. Yes, it's free, but that doesn't mean it's perfect. There can be long wait times for certain procedures and not everything is covered. So, take your time to think it through. Moving to Canada could be a wonderful adventure, but it's important to go into it with your eyes wide open. If you do decide to make the move, do it because you genuinely want to embrace a new life in a new country, not just to escape the current situation. Canada can be a fantastic place to live, but like any major life decision, it requires careful consideration and planning. So take a deep breath, do your research, and make the choice that's right for you. And who knows, maybe one day you'll find yourself loving the Great White North just as much as you love the good old US of A. Hold your horses, let's talk about Tim Hortons. First things first, let's address the elephant in the room, or should I say, the moose on the loose. Canada has a culture, a unique, quirky culture that might surprise you. Sure, they speak English, sort of, but Canadians have their own way of doing things. Take Tim Hortons, for example. Canadians are obsessed with this place. They'll line up for hours just to get their double fix. But let's be real, it's just coffee and donuts, people. And don't even get me started on poutine. Fries, gravy, cheese curds. It sounds like something you'd eat after losing a bet, not something you'd celebrate. Look, I'm not here to judge. Every country has its quirks. But before you trade Starbucks for Timbits, just remember, culture shock is a real thing. Now, let's talk about everyone's favorite subject, money. Specifically, how much more expensive everything is in Canada. From housing to groceries, your dollar just doesn't stretch as far in the land of loonies and toonies. Yes, those are real currency names, don't ask. Rent in major Canadian cities like Toronto and Vancouver. Get ready to remortgage your soul, and don't even get me started on the price of milk. You could buy a plane ticket to Florida for the cost of a gallon up there. I know you're thinking, but what about universal health care? That's gotta save me money. And you'd be right, sort of. But we'll get to that later. For now, just remember, moving to Canada is like upgrading your Netflix subscription. It sounds great in theory, but your bank account might disagree. Section 4, the Great White North. Where jobs go to hibernate? Okay, so you're fine with the cold and the expensive coffee. You've got your winter gear ready, and you're prepared to brave the chilly winds and snow-covered streets. The idea of cozying up in a warm cafe with a steaming cup of coffee sounds like a dream. But there's more to life than just staying warm and caffeinated. You're ready to embrace the Canadian way of life. The friendly people, the multicultural cities, the stunning natural landscapes. It all seems perfect. But what about work? How do you plan to sustain this new lifestyle? Because unless you're planning on living off of maple syrup and good vibes, you're gonna need a job. And not just any job, but one that can support your new life in the Great White North. The job market here is a whole different ballgame. And that's where things get a little tricky. The Canadian job market can be a tough nut to crack. It's not just about finding a job, it's about finding the right job that fits your skills and experience. The process can be overwhelming and sometimes frustrating. See, the Canadian job market is like a warm winter coat. Great if you can find one that fits, but finding that perfect fit can be challenging. You might have to try on several coats before you find the one that keeps you warm and comfortable. It's competitive up there, especially for immigrants. The job market is saturated with talented individuals, and standing out can be difficult. You need to be prepared to put in the effort and showcase your unique skills and experiences. And even if you do manage to land a job, don't expect the same salaries you'd get in the US. The cost of living might be high, but the paychecks might not always match up. It's important to manage your expectations and plan your finances accordingly. Plus, depending on your field, you might need to jump through hoops to get your credentials recognized in Canada. The process can be time-consuming and sometimes costly, but it's a necessary step to ensure you're qualified to work in your chosen profession. Doctors, lawyers, engineers, even hairdressers, many professions require additional certification. This means more studying, more exams, and more waiting before you can start working. It's enough to make you want to pull your hair out, assuming you're still allowed to cut hair after you move. The journey might be tough, but with determination and the right mindset, you can navigate the Canadian job market and find your place in this beautiful country. Section 5. Winter is coming, and staying and staying. Let's talk about the weather, shall we? Specifically the kind of weather that makes you want to stay inside and hibernate for 6 months. The kind of weather that makes you appreciate the simple joys of life, like a warm blanket, a good book, and a steaming cup of hot chocolate. Because if there's one thing Canada is known for, besides politeness and Justin Bieber, it's winter. And not just any winter. We're talking about the kind of winter that freezes your eyelashes shut and turns your car into an ice sculpture. Imagine waking up in the morning, looking out the window and seeing your car transformed into a glistening ice sculpture. It's beautiful, but also a bit daunting. I'm from South Africa. We have sunshine, beaches, and animals that want to eat you. It's a different kind of wild. Canada has, well, it has winter. Lots and lots of winter. The kind of winter that makes you question your life choices as you shovel your driveway for the 3rd time in a day. The kind of winter that makes you wonder if you'll ever see the ground again. It's a season that tests your resilience and your wardrobe. If you're the kind of person who enjoys feeling their fingers and toes, Canada might not be the place for you. The cold can be relentless, seeping into your bones and making you long for the warmth of summer. Sure, they have a lovely summer for about 5 minutes. It's a brief but glorious respite from the cold, a time when Canadians emerge from their hibernation to soak up the sun. Then it's back to the snow, the ice, and the bone-chilling cold. The kind of cold that makes you appreciate the little things like a heated car seat or a well-insulated home. So, unless you're a polar bear in disguise, you might want to invest in a good parka and some long underwear. Layers are your best friend in a Canadian winter, and maybe a heated toilet seat, because when it's that cold, every little bit of warmth helps. It's all about finding comfort in the midst of the chill and embracing the season for what it is, a time to slow down, bundle up, and enjoy the beauty of winter.